What's a red flag when looking for a job? If the job description has about 20 items of which one is sales, your job is going to be sales. If the job description has multiple items, then the majority of your duty is going to be the worst one of those items. A bit like occasional weekend means occasional weekend off. One summer I applied for a construction job. The interviewer told me I might sometimes need to work Saturdays. Fair enough, I thought to myself. Unexpected stuff can come up and require some extra work, it's fine. First day on site, the foreman told me I'll be working both Saturdays and Sundays with no days off indefinitely. My co-workers said this has been going on since Easter. It was August. Oh, and my daily schedule got extended by 2 hours the very next day. I lasted less than a month. Where is that even legal? Earning potential is stressed over current salary. Master's degree preferred for an entry-level job. But the worst part is that they're getting what they ask for. I've been applying to so many master's degree preferred entry-level jobs, and always getting passed over for other people with a master's that have 10 plus years of experience and are perfectly willing to take entry-level pay. Yay, at my job we were hiring for an analyst level role, something that's maybe 3 to 5 years of experience. For some reason our kept pushing through the resumes with 10 plus years of experience and master's degrees for us to interview. And I kept looking at it like, isn't this person way overqualified for this role? They were a manager before this and we're interviewing them for an analyst level role? Which sucked for the people who actually made more sense for the role, because they'd get passed over for someone who was extremely overqualified for an analyst position but willing to be super underpaid for their experience, I guess. They ended up extending an offer to one guy who, in fact, had a master's and like over 15 years of experience, but then coronavirus happened and his offer got rescinded. Making jokes about overtime and crunch time. Guaranteed it's going to be a nights and weekends are optional, but not actually optional, place. I went to an interview where the guy said we don't end the day until everyone is done. And sometimes that takes another hour on a busy day. Then my genius brain said, yeah, I don't want to work constant overtime. What was I thinking, expecting to go home when my contract says I go home? In reality, maybe an hour overtime can easily turn into 2 hours overtime every day. Having to pretend this is normal is toxic AF. When I was a GM for Chipotle, I would constantly work 12+ hour days salary. And one busy weekend I worked 15 hours on Friday and 15 on Saturday, and on Sunday I decided to go to the gas station and eat my donuts in my car and just listen to the radio for like 10 extra minutes to just kind of unwind. You better believe the area manager was there the next day with a write-up in hand because I was 10 minutes late on Sunday, but when I asked what about the other 10 extra hours I put into my store the previous days. That's just part of the job description. That's ducking disgusting. Hope you're in a better spot now, friend. Yeah, I got into something decent and then the whole world shit the bed, currently waiting for everything to open back up like almost everyone else. Initially unpaid, but will result in full-time offer upon completion of XYZ. This will be an excellent chance to expand your portfolio and gain lots of exposure with leading global brands. Graphic designer here. My favorite response to this: you can die from exposure. Musician here. That is also my favorite response. Come play at my bar. Okay, how much you want to pay me? Well, nothing, but you'll get good exposure. People die from exposure. You want me to play? I need cash money. That's why I busk instead. It ain't a living, but it pays the beer. I once told a bar manager that I usually play in the subway for booze money and that I could cut the middleman at this point. He looked at me and said, "You're doing this backwards. You're supposed to be a musician that drinks, not an alcoholic that plays music." This shit had me thinking, not gonna lie. A drinking ban with a music problem. High staff turnover. We work hard and play hard. It actually means all work and for sure no play. Translation: you will work 60+ hours a week, and are expected to come to the company happy hour whether you drink or not. Also, we all stay here too much, then go get hammered because we hate our spouses and children and will do anything to avoid going home. Hiring lots of people on the same position. Everyone who calls gets a job. Often means the job is either bullshit or they're setting you all up to compete for the actual job. I had this once. Turned out it was commission only, door-to-door vacuum sales. I did that for a month. My breaking point was when I was told I couldn't carry any water with me in what is essentially desert climate in middle of summer. Was told to request a glass of water from random strangers. Same if I needed to use the bathroom. I wound up so parched I was risking real dehydration, and the other salespeople had the nerve to drink all my water. Oh, and I sold a grand total of 3 vacuums. I actually has 5 sales, but I quit on a Friday, and by Monday they claimed my last 2 sales were cancelled and I now owed them something like $150 for accessories. Convinced them to zero out my entire account and just close it. Ada, since I have a lot of replies asking which vacuum, it was Kirby. Worked a job doing door-to-door solar power sales. Similar thing happened to me. First few weeks I had my backpack with my water and jumper and a bit of food to keep me going as I was walking like 8 hours a day. Got a new team leader and he said no bag, and I can't take my jumper because it looked unprofessional. This was close to winter with rain most days. I left pretty much the next day. I think one of the best things I learned was managing upwards. Like I used to think I couldn't speak up during meetings, point out why something was idiotic, and suggest better ideas. Any good workplace will value this, any bad workplace you at least get the pleasure of doing it. When they shit talk previous employees, they're going to do it to you. Same goes for them insulting current employees behind their back. I saw that during my orientation. 2 supervisors were loudly talking about how useless an employee was after they got off the phone with him. Even if it's true, the fact that they don't care who hears them is a sign of a toxic work environment. Typical behavior of managers who like to deflect blame for their own mistakes onto employees. Basically a symptom of a terrible boss. Always ask them why the person you are replacing left the job. The way they answer this could be a red flag. I took a security guard job in college as a part-time gig. In the interview, the owner said the guy I was replacing was just lazy. On my first day I asked one of my coworkers, and it turns out he was shot in the face while on duty. Too lazy to drive himself to the hospital, I guess. If the guy couldn't even keep bullets out of his own body, how can he be expected to keep people out of a building? We are a family here, which means this is how they try to make up for the shitty pay and long hours. This is the one I was looking for. Yes, it's a family in the sense that the company expects me to be willing to do anything to help you and your company anytime, anywhere, anyhow. You and your brothers and sisters, aka the other overworked unappreciated peons, are conditioned to work harder to help each other out. The problem there is that the only people who benefit are the people at the top. It's essentially a predatory practice designed to force extra effort out of you by abusing your empathy and your connection to your coworkers. Johnny McCorporate Duckbag literally wouldn't flinch if you dropped dead at your desk from the stress. He would just be pissed at the loss of output and immediately be concerned with finding a new cog for the machine he calls a family. I got a call from a Subway I applied to telling me my interview was in 10 minutes. That was the first I heard from them after submitting my application. A former coworker shared this tidbit with me years ago, and it works wonders. Try to schedule your in-person interview as late in the afternoon as possible, relevant to your position. If you're expecting a 9-to-5 job, schedule your interview for 4 o'clock or 4:30. You probably discussed after-hours work etc. during the interview. When you are done, you should be able to look around. Are people still working? Is the parking lot empty? You can match up the evidence with what was claimed during the interview, and from that, judge how realistic the entire job description is based on how they treated the after-hours work. Just make sure there isn't a staggered schedule or multiple shifts. Most of my positions are listed from 8 to 430, but about half the office works 6 to 230 or 9 to 530. Then, since most of my salary guys want to climb the ladder and appear busy, they stick around for 15 to 20 minutes to leave after their bosses. This was a red flag I had during an interview process once. I was doing a phone interview for an IT position, and the person I was interviewing with basically changed the details of the job during the interview. Instead of the first shift hours the position promised, he immediately went into saying it would be 6+ months before the opportunity for first shift would even be a possibility. Also, he was big into asking how dedicated I was to jobs. The idea of weekend shifts, again, not in the original description, kept coming up, and how everyone had to be a team player and help out on weekends when needed. The kicker was when he started talking about how many hours he worked. He was bragging that he was up at 6 a.m. every day working, then he'd go into the office for the day, come home to see his family for dinner, and get right back to work until 10 to 11 p.m. every night. I had never been turned off from a job faster in my life. He asked me to think things over and he'd send me some paperwork via email. Needless to say, I called him the next morning and declined the job. It was the worst interview process I'd ever been in. I'm in it as well. Some of the interviews I had, before landing my current job, were very similar. Had one interview where the manager belittled one of the techs just before he walked into the room. Probably didn't realize the door was open lol. I'm really lucky though since my current position is awesome. I work with some really friendly people. It's a small company and that's what I prefer. I just got a job in a small, friendly company too. They gave me the whole "we're a family" line in the interview, which normally makes me throw up in my mouth a little, but it came across as genuine for once. I took the role on gut feel and it's great. People listen to me, it's too small a company to ignore anyone. People are valued as individuals rather than being expected to fit a standard employee template, which in it tends to be young, quiet and bearded, none of which I am. And they are appreciative when you get things done rather than nitpicking as an excuse not to reward you. The latter is especially annoying when you don't care about money or promotion but just want a bit of respect.